There we are. There's the Magic the Gathering logo that sits at the top of the feature match area. And we are zooming in on Shouta Yasooka on the right and Shuhei Nakamura on the left, getting a picture right before they start. And Shouta has played turn 1 Aether Vial, which, Zach, you mentioned this is going to be a significant card in this matchup.
I mean, his deck is based around abusing Aether Vial. Now, it doesn't have that many creatures, but with 4 copies of Snapcaster Mage, 4 copies of Eternal Witness, Aether Vial frees up the mana for him to be able to cast the spells that he gets back over and over and over again, very specifically Cryptic Command. Neutralizing threats, machine gunning through his deck, also Thirst for Knowledge. I mean, Shouta described it to me as a control deck, as a pure control deck, and Aether Vial gives him the mana he needs to be able to capitalize on that advantage.
Shouta plays turn 2 Scalding Tarn, responded to with Blood Crypt from Shuhei Nakamura, into play untapped. That'll cost him 2 life. And then there's Dark Confidant.
A card like Dark Confidant is exactly why Shouta is adding an entirely different color to his deck for Lightning Bolt. You've got to be able to deal with threats like that. And you see Shuhei with his hand tentatively on the Confidant saying, okay, when is this going to die?
He knew Bob wasn't going to stand around long.
Yasooka, there's a handful of lands. I think he does have a Snapcast, or he's got a Vendilion Click that he's going to cast on the draw step, trying to strip Shuei's best cards. A lot of gas there in that hand, a lot of options to take.
Oh, we see the Tarmogoyf, we see the lands, we see the Tarmogoyf, we see the Terminate, we see the Liliana. What do you take? What, if anything, do you take here in Shouta's spot?
I think you've got to respect the Liliana. You can deal with the Tarmogoyf actually with the Lightning Bolt from Snapcaster Mage, I believe. Can't you?
No, it's 3/4 already.
And if you're casting it out of your graveyard and then flashing it back.
And then flashing it back, sure.
Right. So I think you have to strip Liliana. Is that what happened?
Yes.
Yeah, the thing is, if he plays Liliana and edicts your Vendilion Click, you're really not in good shape. You have to sort of spend your Snapcaster Mage with Aether Vial just to take out a Planeswalker. That's not what you want to be using that card for.
Okay, Shuhei does cast the Tarmogoyf and puts Breeding Pool into play tapped.
Now, does not put additional counter on Aether Vial, suggesting that what he wants to do is, in fact, a Snapcaster Mage on Lightning Bolt play.
Okay, Yasooka plays Serum Visions, likes one, doesn't like the other.
No, but that does put a sorcery in his graveyard, preventing him from Lightning Bolting the Tarmogoyf.
Which he doesn't have one in his hand, he's just got the one in the graveyard.
Well, yeah, again, he has the Snapcaster Mage, which he could use to cast Bolt out of the yard, but he's not going to be able to do that right now. I guess he's just trying to cast Serum Visions enough times to draw into one of his Cryptic Commands.
Is that double Snapcaster?
That is double Snapcaster Mage. And he keeps those on top with an Aether Vial at 2. Hey, you can get a lot of value out of those guys. Now, of course, the sorcery gone, which opens up the Lightning Bolt again.
There's Bloodbraid Elf from Shuhei Nakamura, and he's going to get a Terminate. Takes out the click.
Now he's attacking for a lot of damage here.
I mean, why not take out the Snapcaster to completely open the door for the attacks? There's no. I mean, the Vendilion Click was tapped, so it couldn't block. So if he kills the Snapcaster, he's free and clear on the damage, as opposed to setting up a block.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. Oh, it looks like... Yeah, I don't really understand that. I feel like you're going to block with Snapcaster Mage here if you can. And, like, you know, it's possible Yasooka just has another Vendilion Click in his hand, and getting rid of the Vendilion Click lets him cast it. I probably would have targeted Snapcaster Mage and just said, okay, whatever, attack me for 3 in the air, I don't care, you know. Yasooka keeping the Aether Vial at 2 counters, I have to imagine. He's thinking about it, though.
He knows he's got all those Snapcasters coming up.
Exactly. Precisely.
So we see a Mountain in his hand, the Snapcaster that he just drew, and can you see the third card?
It's a Thirst for Knowledge. And he is not, in fact, drawn a Snapcaster yet. Now he does, of course. Keeps the Aether Vial there. Keeping a Forest in his hand I guess more or less announcing his intention to cast Thirst for Knowledge this turn.
Here comes the Tarmogoyf. And there's Tarmogoyf number 2. That becomes a little trickier.
Yeah, there's not really a clean way to manage that. And Yasooka's deck is innovative, and I don't really understand it. You know, it's hard for me to sit and figure out his plays when I don't really know what his deck's outs are, what his deck's answers tend to be. Okay, he sees a Tarmogoyf of his own right now that can stop some of the bleeding. The Lightning Bolt in the graveyard, allowing those Tarmogoyfs to trade if we ever get that far, but you know, not really that many good Snapcaster Mage targets, and 2 Tarmogoyfs represents a quick clock with Yasooka at 11. I have to guess he's going to discard 2 lands here. Maybe land and redundant Snapcaster Mage. Yeah, he's going to discard Scalding Tarn and a Snapcaster with yet another Snapcaster in his hand.
Nakamura standing at 15.
Oh, no, 2 lands, in fact. Sorry.
And Yasooka at 11 draws the next card. Is a Lightning Bolt. Now he can kill a Tarmogoyf relatively easy.
Yes.
But he's got 2 he's facing down. He's obviously gonna put a Snapcaster into play via Ether. Oh no, there's a click.
All right, again, he knows about the Liliana. There's a Terminate there. Shuhei is going to have to decide whether to cast Terminate, get rid of the blocker. He decides not to. All right, Terminate goes.
Okay, now here comes a Tarmogoyf of his own via the Ether Vial.
Right. Okay, and now the Lightning Bolt just huge here, right? Because he allows the Tarmogoyf to gain superiority and trade with the other Tarmogoyf. Takes one Tarmogoyf hit, but getting rid of the Terminate allows that Tarmogoyf to enter the battlefield. He's probably going to sacrifice Vendilion Click, and really the game turning around tremendously for Yasooka right now.
Okay, he has dropped down to 8.
Right, we're going to see a Bolt, right? So I guess all the digging Shouta was doing was to dig for a Tarmogoyf to really stop the bleeding and capitalize on his Lightning Bolts. No, right, and being very aggressive with the Tarmogoyf, trying to get Liliana off the board.
Sure, it's the play that it's the card that gives Shuhei a measure of board control.
Right. With 2 Snapcaster Mages, yeah, I'm understanding the value of this Ether Vial. I mean, it's literally been just a Soul Ring.
It's mana, yeah.
That produces colored mana.
There's another Liliana for Shuhei Nakamura. That's his second. He peeled that off the top, obviously.
Yeah, clearly. No, I mean, you've got to want to Edict in a Snapcaster now so that you don't lose your Tarmogoyf. The challenge is which spell to target to represent for the remainder of the turn. I can see Thirst for Knowledge trying to draw into more spells, also to discard redundant Ether Vials if he draws one.
There
also
is the Snapcaster off the Ether Vial. And did he indicate what he's going to...
I think he said Lightning Bolt. And that prevents the attack from Treetop Village.
Looks like Shuhei's considering activating it anyway.
Yeah, the Lightning Bolt kind of acting as a Lightning Helix, gaining him 3 life and dealing damage to the dome if that's what ends up happening. Shuhei, again, trying to consider.
Yeah, because, I mean, Shuhei wants that Lightning Bolt pointed at something other than his face.
Right, yeah, at 13 life, he's potentially on the defensive right now. So the Lightning Bolt does take out the Treetop Village, also paves the way for further Treetop Villages. Wow, and the last Snapcaster Mage plus the last Lightning Bolt takes out the Tarmogoyf, and this matches Yasooka's to win right now.
Right, so he untaps, draws another Ether Vial. He's going to get in, he's probably going to get into Liliana with that Tarmogoyf. Yeah,
one would have to guess. I mean, you can see value in letting it be there so that he can't play another Liliana and Edict him. Inquisition of Kozilek right now, you have to guess you're just going to remand it to try and cycle into something that can't be Inquisitioned. Yeah, sees land Ether Vial. So Yasooka really wants to draw an Eternal Witness right now.
He's ticked up his Ether Vial to 3 because mostly because he's out of Snapcasters.
Yeah.
His life is at a precarious 5 after the attack from the Stirring Wildwood.
However, he did draw an Eternal Witness, like we talked about, that very, very powerful card right now. I think you've got to target Thirst for Knowledge and just try to draw something right here.
2 results from the back tables as he gets in with his Tarmogoyf. Brian Kibler has up 1 game on John Finkel. David Ochoa. I'm sorry, it's the other way around. John Finkel's up 1 game on Brian Kibler. David Ochoa is up 1 game on Luis Scott Vargas in the match of the Channel Fireball Superstars.
All right, so we see an instant speed Eternal Witness coming in, getting back Vendilion Click, allowing Shuhei to keep the Dark Confidant at a mere 7 life points.
Yeah, Dark Confidant becomes sort of dangerous for Shuhei at this point. One would think he has to chump block the Tarmogoyf with it because he's going to eat 3 in the air from Vendilion Click.
Right.
Both those attack.
He could double block the Tarmogoyf with the Treetop Village and the Dark Confidant, and I have to expect that's what he wants to do. It's interesting. I was talking about Eternal Witnessing back Thirst for Knowledge. I forgot that it didn't have to get instants or sorceries. I'm so used to Snapcaster Mage, and yeah, getting the Vendilion Click was devastating. All right, so the chump blocks with
Treetop Village.
Treetop Village. He has to kind of rely upon hitting lands, but that turns out to be the game.
So, in a very swingy game, Shuhei Nakamura was looking pretty good with that double Tarmogoyf in the beginning. And Yasooka came back with his Eternal Command attack.
Without any of the commands, actually. This just highlights how much of a master Yasooka is, though. I mean, I'm sitting there watching his plays. I literally didn't understand anything about what he was doing. I didn't understand why he was digging. I didn't understand what his priorities were. I didn't understand what he was doing with his lightning bolts. It turns out that not only has he engineered this completely rogue deck that no one else was playing, he understands the lines of play better than anybody. He knows that he has to get to those Tarmogoyfs so that his lightning bolts, rather than just sort of sitting there useless, can trade with his opponent's Tarmogoyfs due to his own Tarmogoyfs having 1 more toughness than they do power. And he just rode his card advantage to victory. Really impressive victory for Yasooka there.
Dak Vaden is the greatest thief in the multiverse. Follow his adventures in the Magic the Gathering comic produced by IDW. Special promo card unique to the IDW comic series comes in each issue. Find out more about these comics at www.wizards.com/magicmerchandise. What do you think we're going to see in sideboarding from these 2 players?
It's interesting to me because there isn't really a whole lot there. Looking at Shuhei's deck, I feel like you're going to want your 1 Nihil Spellbomb, your 1 Jun Charm, just to empty the graveyard of all those, the Eternal Witness
those
and
Snapcaster
Mage targets. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Other than that, I mean, Batterskull I think is actually probably pretty good because it just provides inevitability, although it's also kind of weak to the Cryptic command. You definitely want Thoughtseize, getting rid of some of that card advantage before it can happen. In terms of cards that are weak, I feel like Terminate's necessary to get through Tarmogoyfs. Lightning Bolt still doesn't impress me very much. Maelstrom Pulse really doesn't impress me because you have your own Tarmogoyfs, although maybe you want to cast it on Aether Vial. I certainly don't want to be Maelstrom Pulsing Eternal Witnesses and Snapcaster Mages that have already gotten their value. So I feel like that card very likely to come out.
Yeah, they've done their, once they come into play, they've done their damage. Anything else they do, like trading on a chump block, or trading on a block, is just sort of gravy.
Yeah. Now looking at Yasooka's deck, Huntmaster of the Fells can help recoup some of the attrition from the Jun deck, although it also makes their creature removal better, so you've got to think about what they intend to side out. Threads of Disloyalty, very, very good against Tarmogoyf and Dark Confidant, very, very bad against the rest of the deck. I don't really know whether you want those or not. I think Grafdigger's Cage, Grafdigger's Cage from Shuhei, very good against Yasooka. Yasooka's Grafdigger's Cage, not nearly as powerful. Glenalindra Archmage seems tailor-made to this matchup.
That was the that was a card that we started looking at these lists. I'm like, Archmage, huh? How about that?
Yeah, I mean, certainly not a card you see a whole lot of. You know, 4-mana 2/2 doesn't look that impressive at first glance, but I mean, the Jund deck full of a lot of card advantage, full of devastating spells. On the other hand, its discard comes out early, so it may be hard to land, to time Archmage correctly, and it certainly doesn't stop the Bloodbraid Elf from hitting another creature. On the other hand, trading with Bloodbraid Elf and being able to counter the next Terminator Liliana, you see, very powerful. Also just good to sacrifice against Liliana without losing a guy. So a lot of really crazy interactions coming up in this matchup. Hard to tell what's even good, hard to tell what's bad, hard to tell which direction you want to take the deck, and I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Well, you know, I think you said it right. Yasooka's a master,
yeah.
And he's created lines of play that we're not quite sure we understand just yet.
Well, he just shows up to every tournament with a deck that no one else is playing that's just better than everyone else's deck. I remember at Honolulu, it was, you know, Bloodline Keeper, Tezzeret, Blue-Black. He had one of the best decks at Pro Tour Avacyn Restored with, you know, the Angel of Glory's Rise plan and the Falkenrath Aristocrats that no one else was playing. I mean, you've got to consider him the best constructed player in the world right now, and he does not disappoint us in Modern, playing Aether Vial, one of the most powerful cards in Magic, certainly one of the most powerful cards in the format that no one else at the entire tournament is bothering to play.
Why do you think that is?
It's hard to use. You know, I mean, it's hard to develop a deck like Yasooka's that only plays, like, you know, a few creatures, but draws enough of them over and over again and has enough redundancy that you're just tapping it for 3 mana every turn. You don't want to play it in an aggro deck, even one with a ton of creatures necessarily, because, you know, you want to play a damage source on turn 1. So it's a hard card to figure out how to maximize, and it's a tricky card to use, I think. You know, you don't want to get mana flooded, but in a deck that can take advantage of it, certainly a deck like Yasooka's that's really good at spending all of its mana every turn due to the Cryptic Command, the Recursion, Thirst for Knowledge, getting rid of your excess lands. Certainly, we're seeing its potential be unlocked right now.
Okay, we're going to see Shuhei Nakamura on the play, of course.
One would hope.
Well, you know, again, these guys play at a level that most of us don't understand, so
that's certainly true.
Who knows? They may have figured out something that we just don't know. Jundek's plan is just still pretty straightforward. Get the early guys and the creature removals, clear the path, and control the board. Right,
it's 2 for 1 your opponent until they lose, and I think that's Yasooka's plan as well. So
okay, Shuhei Nakamura has led off with a Blood Crypt untapped, with which he's played Inquisition of Kozilek.
That is true, and he takes Aether Vial without even having to really think about it too much. It's one of those cards that, like, you assume your opponent's playing because it's good, and so, like, even though there's a lot of juicy targets there, click Eternal Witness, which is very tempting, because you can always just Eternal Witness back whatever card you take. He's like, nah, I'm going to get rid of this Aether Vial before it gets started. He played a turn 1 dab Steam Vents, which would be really awkward if he drew an Aether Vial.
There's the turn 2 Inquisition from Shuhei, who takes the Mana Leak.
I believe he's doing that to set up Dark Confidant or Liliana next turn. Yeah, I think he wants to cast Dark Confidant. That's exactly what he does. Sees no Lightning Bolt from Yasooka. Probably plans on riding that Dark Confidant to victory.
But there's a top deck Lightning Bolt. So, you know, sometimes when you're a master, it just means being a master of the peel.
Look, man, sometimes you got to draw your cards. Oh, and he has the Aether Vial too. Okay, well, Yasooka good at drawing magic cards.
Okay, there's Tarmogoyf from Shuhei.
And just like that, Aether Vial at 2, Snapcaster Mage in hand. A lot of that discard is proven relatively fruitless.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types in the graveyard already.
And it's not a small Dark Confidant.
Tarmogoyf.
I'm very wrong. The Dark Confidant is not just small, it is dead and in the graveyard. But yes, Tarmogoyf quite large.
3rd Inquisition from Shuhei. And looks like Shouta is going to think about responding here.
Yeah, he can get the Snapcaster Mage onto the table, but yeah, it's casting Lightning Bolt not all that profitable right now.
Yeah, with Nakamura's life total standing at 18.
Yeah. This, yeah, I mean, he's probably going to take Eternal Witness. Vidalian Click, not good really right now. Huntmaster of the Fells is interesting because you have to expect Shuhei to have Jun Charm in against you, which totally blows out Huntmaster in addition to everything else.
As Shuhei passes the turn and Shouta ticks that up to the Ether Vial up to 3, we find out that John Finkel has won his match from Brian Kibler. David Ochoa has taken down his match from Luis Scott Vargas.
We see a Threads of Disloyalty on Yasooka's side, very powerful weapon against the Tarmogoyf. Did not cast it due to Copperline Gorge, Stomping Ground, Steam Vents not being the mana base you need to cast that that particular double blue enchantment. And we see Shuhei getting out a Steam or a Blood Crypt, putting a land in the graveyard, making that Tarmogoyf even bigger.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And the click comes out, targeting Shuhei. You have to expect at least some part of Yasooka wanted to target himself with the click, trying to draw to a second blue source. The color fixing aspect, yet another very powerful factor of Ether Vial. Shuhei probably going to respond with Terminate.
Terminate the click.
Right. Well, he's thinking about it, though. And that's, yeah, that's in fact what happens. You have to expect that the Liliana is going to get taken here. Oh, well, I guess not. It's interesting to me.
Okay, Tarmogoyf gets in. He doesn't chump with the Snapcaster Mage.
Oh, okay. It's because he couldn't cast it. I thought that Treetop Village was a Twilight Mire, which would have allowed him to cast the Liliana. Obviously, if he can't cast it, taking it lets him draw something that he can cast, which in a tempo-based game like this is super important.
There's Huntmaster of the Fells from Yasooka.
Ether Vial up at 4 counters. Kind of unreal. You know, it can't go back down.
Right.
But
so it's Glenelendra, Archmage, and Huntmaster are the 4 drops
right
in his deck. He is going to bust this Misty Rainforest to get an island and get the Threads of Disloyalty to take the Tarmogoyf away. And now the tempo of this game has just radically swung in the other direction.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just looking, look at the board. It says it all. I mean, Yasooka can barely fit all of his permanents onto his side of the table. Shuhei has basically nothing. He you can't see it from this angle on your screen, but he's kind of looking bemused, just like, okay, well, I don't even know what I'm supposed to try and do against this. And yeah, I mean, it just 2 for 1 after 2 for 1 from Yasooka.
And it's big pile of damage coming his way. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep.
Yeah, and
he's going to take out the Liliana.
Off the table too. Maybe just leave it there. I mean, what's Liliana going to do to you? You know, why not deal some extra damage?
Transforms the Huntmaster into Ravager of the Fells.
Tarmogoyf coming down for Shuhei only does so much. Shuhei got a lot of creatures back there in the form of his lands, but they can't really mount an offense right now in any meaningful way. Yasooka at a healthy 16 life points.
We have Shuhei's life total at 17 on the board. I don't think that's quite correct. We'll get a...
Yeah, right. That is.
There's the handshake. And a lot, you know, a very friendly handshake, very friendly. Congratulations from Shuhei to Yasooka. You know, if you're not going to win, one of your friends winning seems like a good idea.
Yeah, sure. I'm just blown away by the absolute dismantling of the Jun deck that we just saw from Yasooka's deck. I mean, does anyone else have a chance, or is he just that far ahead of everybody?
We're back in the booth. I'm Sheldon Menery. He's Zach Hill. We are covering Magic the Gathering Players Championship 2012. We've just seen, I think I'm going to use your word, a complete dismantling of Shuhei Nakamura by Shouta Yasooka. It's an interesting deck. It's something nobody else is playing.
Right.
And it's something that's going to stand him in a pretty good stead if he can get his M13 draft going tomorrow morning.
Well, I mean, there's so many interesting aspects to this deck. You see, you know, 3 copies of Eternal Witness, not a card you're seeing a lot of. You see 2 Thirst for Knowledge in a deck that has 4 artifacts. Right? You know, it's just like draw 3, discard 2 most of the time. Obviously, redundant Ether Vials are very bad, so that aspect of the card helps. But just the card flow of that deck and its ability to turn the tide with its creatures, you know, becoming aggressive out of nowhere with Vendilion Click and Tarmogoyf, its redundant Lightning Bolts, a really impressive deck. It reminds me a lot of Caw-Blade. You know, it's a superlative control deck that's capable of killing you in like 3 attacks.
I mean, the Thirst for Knowledge is interesting because of all the Eternal Witnesses and the Snapcasters.
Right.
Because he can craft the graveyard that he wants so that he can do all his things, especially, you know, when he's putting those Snapcasters or Ewits into play off of the Ether Vial, costs him 0 mana.
Yeah.
Then he still has mana on he's got a relatively tight curve there.
Right.
So he can just Ether Vial the thing that gets the thing that he wants to cast, and now he still has the mana to cast.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, and that's exactly what we saw happen. I mean, or he can Thirst for Knowledge away his excess lands. He just has so many lines of play open to him. I don't even know how you play against that deck. I mean, you want to try and hose the graveyard, I suppose, but like he can deal with your threats with Lightning Bolt after Lightning Bolt. He can counter all your spells. There's nothing that Cryptic Command doesn't do.
Right.
And he's outpacing you with tempo because his Aether Vials are better than Gilded Lotuses.
You know, it's interesting because we talked at the top of this round about the Jund deck being something that 2-for-1s you until you're dead. Well, looks to me it looks to me like the Eternal Command deck 2-for-1s you till you're dead, and it 2-for-1 the Jund deck.
Yeah, no, and that's true. I mean, the thing is, the Jund deck is really well positioned against a lot of the other creature decks we saw. It has a lot of removal. It has a lot of redundant discard. It can get its 2-for-1s, but it has no good way besides its discard spells that aren't supported by Snapcaster Mage to try and attack the opponent's hand. And, you know, so a lot of these creature removal spells are liabilities against 2-for-1s that already generate their value. And the Jund deck, it really has to rely upon a Dark Confidant staying alive or getting pretty lucky on its Bloodbraid Elves, I think, to attack the cards that matter the most in this matchup.
So, we've seen 6 rounds here at the Magic Players Championship. 3 Cube, 3 Modern. We're going to see M13 drafted tomorrow morning. Then we're going to see tomorrow afternoon 3 more rounds of Modern. Cube was a lot of fun.
Cube was a ton of fun. Those may have been my favorite matches that I've covered at a Pro Tour. I mean, just so many different interactions. And I have a lot of fun personally playing Cube. I hope this in many ways inspires more people to build or at least try out cubes and get to experience this format that really has no parallels.
It certainly has inspired me. I'm going to run home and just start building a cube.
That's so awesome.
Because it's just... You know, I like formats. I mean, I like my competitive Magic too.
Yeah, of course.
But I like formats where there's a lot of laughter and a lot of whoa, I can't believe that just happened. I mean, obviously, Commander is my format,
of course,
and there's a lot of oh my god, I can't believe that just happened. And to me, Cube seems like a limited format that can bring that sort of battle cruiser magic into a draft, which you really don't see. You don't see that in draft formats.
Right, and a lot of cards that tend to be overpowered in constructed context. I mean, you know, I think about the Cube that I play with most, like some card like Yawgmoth's Bargain, really degenerate. Time Spiral, totally degenerate. Academy Rector to get some of those cards. You have a lot of these cards. Jace the Mind Sculptor banned in a lot of formats that normally do really ridiculous things and that you can't really play with and construct it in a way that's fun because they just take the game away. But in a limited environment, in a Highlander environment where you're drafting those cards, it's much easier for those cards to just sort of be powerful and lead to big stories like you were talking about and remind you of all the fun you've had over the years being able to play with those cards back when they were legal in Standard.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we had a lot more fun back in the day slapping a Shivan Dragon down onto the table than we did figuring out tight mana curves and, you know, maximizing our 3-cost spells. There's something that speaks to the Timmy in all of us, and I think even the spikiest of the spikies has that little bit of Timmy that loves to see just like, the fireworks go off.
Right. Oh, no, I couldn't agree with more than that. I mean, a philosophy I've had as a member of Magic R&D is that I think basically everybody has a Timmy in them somewhere.
Right.
You know, and even if you like to win, you might like to win more in big, exciting, super awesome ways.
Right.
You know, I mean, I think that those moments, the stories that you can tell people, are really a part of the reason that everybody plays Magic and part of what makes this game so great.
Yeah, I mean, we don't talk about when we're sort of sitting around the campfire, as it were, talking about fun times we've had. We don't talk about, well, I won that one tournament when I played the Dream Hall Stroke deck.
Well, some of us do.
Yeah, well, but the insanity that the John Finkel having the braids and the Phyrexian Obliterator
So
and whatnot
unreal.
under the Karn. First time I ever got Karn played against me. The card I had in my hand to exile, Brooding Saurian.
Are you kidding me?
Go ahead. And again, those are the stories. Those are the great times that the game creates. So, 6 rounds of play down here at the Magic Players Championship. Day 1 is done. We are also done here in Studio A. We are going to throw it to Studio B. I'm Sheldon Menery. He's Zach Hill. See you tomorrow.
So when he says it's done, it's kind of not, because there are still 3 matches played. But it is true that there's no more live Magic, so we'll bring you the news from there. I'm with Martin User from the Czech Republic in the fabulous channelfireball.com Czech Republic shirt, which is just pretty awesome. Before we get to talk to Martin, let's just bring you an update what things are looking like on the big board. There you see it, Paolo up to 3-3. Quite a lot of comeback stories. We're going to talk to Martin in a couple of minutes, how he's worked his way up the field. Finkel at 4-2, you see. Only won 5-1. That's Shouta Yasooka. I think, Martin, you're at 4-2, right?
I am 4-2.
So, okay, we'll sort that out for you. But that's just to give you a rough guide to what's going on with 3 matches still to go. So here is, as I say, Martin User of the Czech Republic. Now, Martin, 4-2 on any given day. It's not enough to make you in the top 8 of a PTQ, for example. It's
I haven't played those in a while.
I know you.
Right.
You can trust me. 4-2 doesn't get you into the top 8.
Okay.
It's only 1 above a positive record, but in this field, 4-2 is a really big deal. And as we've just seen, only won 5-1. You're 1 match off the lead overnight.
Yeah, and I started 0-2, so that feels even better.
Okay, so in terms of, you are one of our most traveled pros. You've played in every corner of the world. We see, we meet up in Hiroshima, where you win a GP there. You're at of course, you're at all the European events, but you're constantly in North America. I saw you tweet when the new Grand Prix schedule went up. Looks like I'm spending Christmas in America.
That's what I like about these tournaments, that you meet all these friends and all these people, and you're like, all right, see you in 2 weeks, and on the other side of the world, see you in Africa, see you in China, and next week see you in Brazil.
And at Christmas it's going to be Indianapolis just before Christmas, and then first weekend of the new year I think it's Denver, something like that, and then Atlantic City the following weekend. So that's sort of coming up. There's only 1 result still to come in, but when you approach a tournament like this, I know that you sort of split up the huge Channel Fireball team. Some of you weren't playing, and you didn't want to all test together. You ended up testing with, for people who don't know you, what might seem like an odd combination. The Japanese, with Yuya Watanabe and Shuhei Nakamura. Tell us a little bit about your developing friendship with Shuhei.
Well, first of all, the way we split was mostly like people who live close together. Just who lives close to Raptor and Web, so they test together. Reed and Owen live close together, so they decided to test together. And I'm very good friends with the Japanese, and because first of all we see each other at basically every tournament, and I just like them a lot. They're very friendly to people. They're very nice, and we're just very good friends. So we went to the World Cup, and the week after that there's a GP in Boston. And before that we spent the entire week in Boston for Monday. And we just tested Modern the entire week.
So you were testing away. What did you arrive at? Tell us just a little bit about your deck. Obviously, we've got a deck tech that we can show, but just remind people what you're playing and how you arrived at it.
I'm playing Jund. I like it a lot because it has discard, and that gives you perfect information. These players are this is not a Grand Prix. They're not going to tell you who they have in hand, and I like having perfect information and not having to play around stuff, and that's one of the reasons why I chose John. And it's like an all-around good deck. It has a lot of powerful cards, and we thought that Blue White Red Delver and Rock Delver are going to be the most popular decks, or like Blue White Red Zoo whatever Delver.
Sure.
Geist aggro deck, and I think we got it right, and our deck is, well, I think, pretty good against this metagame.
Okay, now this metagame, interesting phrase. Is this a metagame that you arrived at in your heads because of the way the cards work against each other, or was this a metagame you arrived at because you knew exactly who was going to be in the building? How much did you say?
A little bit of both.
Right, okay, yeah. So, you know, are there certain people you went, I guarantee you, he will be playing a 3-color control deck. I know he's going to be trying to be Zoo. You know, were there some people that you correctly identified like that?
Well, not really that, but we like looked at the online decks, and there's like, for example, there's this White Winnie deck with like a lot of tokens, some life gain, and it just beats the hell out of Junt. John can never beat it, but like, if you look at the people who like play this tournament, there's no way like Luis Paulo or like, you know, these people are never gonna play White Winnie.
Sure.
So we're like, yeah, maybe we have 1 or 2 really bad matchups, but these
one
decks,
of them won't be there.
No one's ever gonna play these decks. Same for like Affinity. Like Affinity is not a very good matchup, but I wouldn't bet that Luis or anyone else was going to play Affinity.
Okay. Talking to people last night at the player gathering that we had back at the hotel, a lot of people were privately saying that for Modern, they wanted a deck that wouldn't lose them the event. Not so much a deck that would win them it, but that, you know, they wanted to go to bed tonight still in the running. They didn't want to be 1-5 because they'd gone 0-3 in Modern with a deck that just folded to a ton of decks. That they wanted to just be safe. And that maybe the place they wanted to make their move, if you like, was in either in Cube or M13. Is your deck a safe choice? Is Jund a kind of middle of the road, not a, like you say, one bad matchup that you know you're not going to face? Is it generally a deck that you feel pretty comfortable with as a kind of middle of the road deck?
Yeah, I think Jund has game against everything. Except for the White Winnie deck.
Yeah, which isn't a deck in this context.
Yeah, I think John has a game against everything, and I'm really happy with my choice. I'm really happy that the way we built our sideboard, and yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about the deck.
Okay. When you look at a Pro Tour event, or even more at a Grand Prix, because you've done 90-odd Grand Prix now, you know that you walk in with your 3 buys, admittedly, but you walk into a room like at Boston, 1,800 and something people. So to imagine winning that event, actually lifting the trophy, something you've done multiple times, Portland, Bochum, Hiroshima, in a sense, to imagine that is foolish because the odds are catastrophically low that it will actually ever happen, however good you are. So whenever it does happen, it's a triumph of unlikelihood. But here, sure, you've got rid of 1,820 odd of the Boston thing, but every round is just what amounts to the last round of a win and in at a Pro Tour. And I look at your record, and one of the things about you, we sort of put, what would it mean if the different players won this event? And we said about you, it would be all about being more than consistent, because you are one of the most consistent people on the planet. And I can't remember the last time I saw you at the back end of day 2 of a Pro Tour, and you were like, oh yeah, I was done rounds and rounds ago. You're always in 33rd place with 3 rounds to go, because you're at 10-3, or 11-2, or maybe 9-4, but you're always in there. This is a tournament where you just have to be great player after great player after great player. What would it mean to you in terms of taking that extra step? You've got 2 Pro Tour top 8s. But where would this rank if you were to win come Friday?
Like a Pro Tour top 8, probably better.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be like a Pro Tour win?
I think it's got to be close to that, just because of who you're beating every round.
Right. I guess we're playing 14. Like if you're
the winner will play 14 rounds.
That far, you're playing 14 rounds, and you're playing only against.
And you're
I guess
you're just playing Pro Tour champions all the way.
You could say it's probably better than a Pro Tour. Like the competition definitely is.
Okay. So therefore, when you approach this, when you get up this morning, you know you've got 3 rounds of Cube, 3 rounds of Modern ahead of you. what are you thinking? What are your hopes for the day? Just to play the best you can and see what happens? Or are you targeting a 4-2? Or are you being like optimistic, saying, I want a 6-0, I'm going to get out there and batter everyone?
I really wanted to have a positive record. I like the way the payout is set up. Being the 9th through 16th guy is a very bad feeling.
You want to be the top 8, so because it's $1,000 for 9 to 16 for people who don't know this. Then 8, 7, 6, 5, $5,000. 4 and 3, $10,000. Second place, 20. Number 1, 40,000 US dollars. Good to be good at Magic, it turns out.
Like the way I saw it before the tournament was that I would definitely like to be in the top half, and then
and you start at
I'll just see what happens.
$5,000 would be great, and then if you can double up and double up and double up, that's wonderful. Okay, so you come in. What did you draft in Cube?
I drafted Reanimator. My deck was a couple cards from being good.
Okay.
It was not bad, but it was not anything special either. Like I could have gotten some good draws. I mulliganed a lot. I lost to Yuya, which seemed like an unlosable matchup because my deck was blue-black Reanimator. Most of the fatties were artifact creatures and black creatures, and all Yuya's deck was like target player discards 2 cards, like terror and like destroy black creature and stuff like, or non-black creatures, stuff like that. And somehow I still managed to lose to him. So that was a pretty bad start. But at least I managed to beat Paulo. So I did play pretty bad though. I have to say that was not my best performance. But
okay, you had a pretty eventful match. Tell us about the match that you were
with Paulo?
Millimeters away from losing, and it looked like, just reading little bits of reports, it sounded like, yeah, he's clearly dead in all sorts of unfunny ways. But tell us about that.
I think I Dark Ritualed out a Wormcoil engine on turn 4. Then we traded some cards, and he locked the engine under a Johnny.
Okay.
And a couple turns later, we trade some more stuff, and then Paul gets to ultimate a Johnny, kill all my lands.
Nice.
Plus, he also has Akrama's Vengeance to kill everything else I have in play.
Everything else.
So all I have left is 2, 3, 3 tokens. Paul is it
from the Wormcoil?
21 or 18 or something like that. And he has like 5 cards in hand. But, well, you know, 4 turns later, Paul shows me a hand full of lands. just doesn't play a spell for the rest of the game.
And that's how you end up at 0-3 in a field like this. I mean, Paolo with his 9 Pro Tour top 8s, and sometimes you just draw land, and that can happen. So you come out of Cube, you're at 1-2. You've got this deck that you think's reasonably positioned. Once you're going to find out what everyone's going to play. Who do you play in round 4?
About to Chinkua.
Okay.
With Affinity.
So he's obviously on a roll. He's got nothing to lose here whatsoever, having already just become essentially a national superstar and to an extent a global Magic superstar on the back of what Chinese Taipei did the week before last.
I actually know him pretty well. Like most of the people, they have no idea who he is.
No, of course.
But like he also goes to all the Asian Grand Prix and whatever, so I get to like see him very often and we talk. I also am friends with him the same way I'm friends with the Japanese, and I like he's been quite good for some time, but people just have no idea who he is.
I think it's because he's over such a long span. If he had his 9 GP top 8s over 5 years, his name would keep cropping up. But his first one goes back to 2000, and it's in Taipei, whatever. And so over the years, it's kind of, you need to keep paying attention to find these people. And he has like 160 odd lifetime pro points. He's a very, very solid pro. So you beat him, that gets you to 2-2. Now that's the first point since the event started that you're even.
Yeah.
So that must that in itself must feel pretty good. It's like, okay, it's taken me 4 rounds, but I'm back at the start.
I was very close to losing too. Like it was game 3, and I had to top deck Ancient Grudge to like stay alive, and I thought I could have already seen myself being 1-3, and I would probably go until be like, yeah, this is just bad day, and But fortunately, there was an Ancient Grudge on top of my library, and now we're here.
So there you are at 2-2. Who's next?
Samuel Estrati was round 5.
All right. So is that someone you've played much against?
Not really, no.
No, because he's kind of fairly. It's not that he's new, but certainly at the top tables, you don't see it, haven't seen a lot of him. How was that match?
He played Rug, and he didn't draw very well, or like he played Delver, didn't flip it for like 2 or 3 turns. I played a bunch of Bloodbraid Elves game 1, game 2. I think he mulliganed, and I don't know. He had he had some some shackles going on, but
a pretty routine match.
I'd say that my draws were better, but on the other hand, like you're playing Bloodbraid Elves, your Dark Defense give you more cards, so not really just a better draw, but also when you're getting into a stalemate, my deck's probably better for that. So
okay, in the last round, as it turns out, because Alexander Hayne loses, and the fact that inevitably one of the 4-1s of Shuhei and Shouta lose, you beating Alex is a huge deal for you, because it basically means you're in joint second place, only 1 win behind a sole leader.
Oh yeah, the tiebreakers.
Yeah, and the difference between being at 4-2 and right behind the leader, and being at 3-3 in sort of tied for 7th kind of thing, it's just huge. You must, quite apart from winning 4 wins in a row, you must feel that you're in pretty good shape. Just, your deck has indeed turned out to be completely fine, as you thought, because Shuhei's obviously done well with it as well. I don't know what Yuya's record is in Modern. He's had a difficult day. He was still playing last I checked. There was 1 match outstanding. I think that's him. So you come back tomorrow. We get M13 draft.
Yeah.
Now at 4-2.
Looking forward to that one.
Okay. Now because you're at 4-2, you will certainly be at table 1. Mm-hmm. So the winner of that table, certainly if it's the 5-1, if it's Shouta, but you must feel, and you're a limited guy, you've won so many events and dominated as a limited player, you must feel that if you can ace M13, you've got 1 foot in the top 4.
Sure. I mean, I like limited a lot, and I played a lot of M13 drafts. I think I know what's going on in the format. Figure it out the way
What's going on? What's going on in the format? You can tell us. No, they won't know. They won't listen. None of your opponents will listen. Thing is, that's not true. They're all there with their phones overnight going, right, who did the deck? Let's listen to this. Oh, Martin says that blue-white's very good. So we won't actually make you answer.
I'll tell you tomorrow.
Yeah, fine. Come in. It's a deal.
Right.
Come in when you're 3-0.
Let's do that. Okay.
Listen, Martin, thank you so much for being with us. Martin User, you see, 0-2 to 4-2, wading through Pro Tour champions left and right to put himself in contention. It's murder out there, it really is. Martin, thank you so much.
Thanks.
We're going to send Martin on his way. We're going to bring in one Marshall Sutcliffe very shortly, going to join us. And we're going to see what else is going on in terms of results. There you see Martin's resume with all his championships aplenty, 3 national titles and so on. Let's see what's going on the scoreboard if we can. See what we've got going on up there. So there we see Martin with his 4-2 record. You've got it on your screen right now. So Palavita Dharmadorosa was 0-3 in Cube and fought back to 3-3 after 3 rounds of Modern. That is tenaciousness personified and puts him still in contention. Reed Duke, he ends up at the bottom of the pile at 1-5. You see other people with a positive record. Finkel, Hayne, Alexander Hayne started 4-0 but fell back to 4-2. Brian Kibler even record at 3-3. Ochoa and Nakamura just ahead of average at 4-2. Josh Utter-Layton, he fought back from 0-4 to 2-4. But you see that your leader right now is Shouta Yasooka at 5-1. 1 result still to come in. That was Yuya Watanabe against Su Ching Kuo. So I'm delighted to say that I've been joined once again by Marshall Sutcliffe as we wait for that last result to come in.
I was just watching that.
Okay, was it good?
Yeah.
some stuff going on?
It's like the tension is so thick out there, and both of these guys are very cerebral players. They are deep in the tank on every decision, and we're talking about Jund versus robots here. I mean, it's kill all your stuff, kill you, but they are not taking any chances with anything.
Yeah, because Kuo is with robots and has had some crazy first turns of just, there's my hand.
There's my hand. Yeah, and on this one, though, it's a little bit different because this is post-board games against Jund. We're talking Ancient Grudge. We're talking Terminates. We're talking Olivia Valderin is on the table right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds quite good for Watanabe, right?
It does. Yes.
Okay, so that would put Watanabe to 2 and 4. We'll bring you the full standings and, of course, an end-of-day wrap coming right up. But I want to take a look at the lifetime pro points of the players here, just to give you a sense of what these players have accomplished to get here. Because remember, you get 2 pro points for turning up at a pro tour. So pro points are hard to come by.
Yeah.
And, you know, unlike making a money finish at a Grand Prix, that's 1 point. Let's see as we start up, who's down at the bottom. And this is the lifetime matches we've got here. Josh Adder-Layton, 1494. Up we go towards 1628 with Samuela Estrati. Keep going up. We head towards the 2000s. Reed Duke there, our youngest player, only 22. John Finkel, 1875. That's actually a relatively low number of matches, but of course he's been out of the game for a bunch of years, in the, if you like, in the middle of his career. Let's carry on up. The second group, we've got Yunya Ienaga closing in on 2,000 matches for the 2011 World Champion. Paolo, 1981. Again, not a ton of matches, but almost all his matches are at the highest level.
He's a young guy, so.
He is. He's like 24 now, I believe.
Yes.
Luis Scott Vargas, just over the 2,000 mark. And then at the top of our first column, you've got David Ochoa closing in on 2,200. Now, I want you to remember, David Ochoa, been playing for a while, 2,200 matches. When you see who's at the top and how many they've played, it's crazy.
I haven't seen this yet.
Okay.
Really, yeah.
All right. So you're going through your head. Who's going to be next? Well, we've got Brian Kibler next.
Wow,
2,200.
Kibler's next? I thought he would be way higher.
Well,
He's
no,
been playing
because,
forever.
yeah, but he hasn't. He stopped. Again, you have this period in the middle where around about 2003, 2004, he goes away for 4 or 5 years. Like, dips his toe in very occasionally, like if there's a local California thing going on. But basically, he came back with a splash in 2009 with top 8 in Honolulu and then, of course, winning Pro Tour Austin. Let's go on up. Alexander Hayne. Now, this is an interesting story because you think, hey, how come he's played so much? And you dig into his record. He is Mr. Friday Night Magic. This guy has played way over 200 F&M. That's that's 200 F&Ms, not 200 matches.
Right.
That's 200 F&Ms. You know, you get through 3, 4, 5 matches in those things. So
That's
about
fantastic.
1,000 of those are like having fun with your friends in Canada on a Friday night. And that's a way to become a Pro Tour champion.
Sure.
You know, you can do it that way. Let's move up into the top 6. Martin Hughes, of course, he's been everywhere. Nearly 2,800. 2,900, the most winning at GP level in terms of win percent of these 16. Owen Turtonwell closing in on 3,000. Now we've got 4 to go into 3,000 territory. That's a lot of magic, boys and girls. Shouta Yasooka, our leader here in the Players' Championship. The top 3 in 3rd place. Here it is. It's Su Chin Kuo.
Wow.
Okay, and the thing with this is like he's based, if you like, off PTQs because he goes to every PTQ, every pre-release, every Friday Night Magic. This guy has something like 59 PTQs. He's top 8'd, wait for it, 36 of them. Right? He's like better than 1 in 2. But you know,
he is really a machine at his consistency, and I guess it's not a surprise having played that.
And of course, he has to sort of come back and sort of re-qualify all the time. So he naturally is on the PTQ circuit. Only 2 names to go. There's one way above Su Chin Kuo.
Yeah.
It's Yuya Watanabe. No surprise, 16 Grand Prix top 8s, 6 titles, only 23. He's going to break the scoreboard if he keeps at it.
Yeah.
But brace for impact. 3,833 is your 2nd place. Here's number 1. Oh, I beg your pardon? I'm sorry? You did what with your life?
Grinder.
That's like,
wow.
So now that of course is out of date. It is now 4,808 lifetime sanction matches for Shuhei Nakamura.
That's incredible.
I mean, that is...
There's a 1,000 gap between 1st and 2nd.
Yeah, I mean, you know, 3 words, carpal tunnel syndrome. Wow. That's a lot of shuffling that's gone into those 4,800
I mean, this is more
matches.
than double.
And that's... Yeah, when you look at the right-hand side and you look, there's David Ochoa, there's some of the greats of the game, LSV and Paolo. Between them, they are about 1,000 shy of one Shuhei Nakamura, which is just startling. Listen, I can tell you that the last result is in, as anticipated by, so you know robots don't like artifact destruction and you know Watanabe's got all the artifact destruction. Marshall calls it, Yuya Watanabe wins 2-1. So that means we are just moments away from the end of day wrap.